Outstanding.
If that's like hitting his, yeah. Anyway,
welcome to Game of Nodes, a weekly podcast on the cosmos from independent validator teams.
Hello and welcome to Game of Nodes, weekly podcast on the cosmos from independent validator teams. And tonight we were supposed to have Code Hands from Kajira
Super Hands.
Super Hands. Appropriately given his nickname, he rugged us. So, which anybody who's familiar with Peep Show will recognize the pattern of behavior. I don't think it was cocaine related.
So to be fair, we weren't entirely, well, I mean, we were rugged, but I mean, he's made a decision to spend time with his wife who had made a booking, which I think is perfectly fair. Happy wife, happy life.
Happy wife, happy life is the most boomerish thing you can say, man. That is like,
what do you like? Zia's fuck the wife.
Well, I'm not
crypto. Just crypto.
I'm not a Z. That's Callum. Come on. But I got married young, and so that was like suddenly old men in the pub were just giving me boomer advice all the time. There's like, oh, they see the rating. They're like, oh, you married long, son, and you're like, and then they always say happy wife, happy life.
Are you married? Is your wife happy? Do you give her the jolly rogering?
That is basically what happens in England. Yeah. So jolly rogering.
So are you saying that guys would see your ring and then they would pick up on you because you had a ring? Is that what you're saying? They're flirting with you?
No, it's more like, so I live in the north of England where people will just talk to you in a way that people don't in the south of England. And in that period in my life, I spent quite a lot of time drinking in random pubs in the hills because of reasons, mainly hiking, cycling, also going drinking on the train. There's a lot of things in the north of England that involve taking a train somewhere and drinking at all the places you can stop on the way.
Is this where you've developed your affinity for trains?
I've always
where you feel so at home on a train?
I've always been a fan of trains, but obviously the station pub is an institution that has largely died off in some parts of the country, but is still going strong in parts of the north of England, where there's a pub on the platform. Okay, we can talk Cosmos in a minute. I'll break it down for you.
I don't think I've ever experienced a station pub.
Right, so a station pub.
I haven't, yeah.
A station pub is, we have the ticket office, and then attached to the ticket office, there's a pub. So if you have a train line, that has many stops, especially like a rural one where maybe the train is every hour or so. You can take a train, buy a ticket to like the terminus, and then get off at every station. Well, it may as well be the pub. Who gives a fuck, right? You get off at every station, go to the station pub, have a pint. Takes about 45 minutes, whatever. Just take your time, and then you get back on the train. Go to the next station, get off, have another pint at the pub, and then these quite small rural places quite often. So you just get chat to the people there because they're just like, oh, what are you doing? You go into a few of the pubs online. You're like, yeah, and then they're like, oh, you young guy, you married? And you're like, yeah. And they're like, well, say happy wife, happy life. And you're like, we're having fun, man. We're having fun.
Why'd you bring that up? So what we're saying is, so basically people are going for a pub crawl on the train.
Yeah.
And people from the local communities are going to the train pub to like the station pub to experience some diversity in conversation with,
No, they're just at the pub having a pint.
Oh, they're just at the pub because it's one of the only pubs in town in these small towns, right?
Depending on which village you're in, yeah. But,
so when you say they book a ticket to the terminus, so they're like going to the end of the line, but so they're getting off the train and like spending some time at the pub and then getting back on another train, or do the trains just like wait around for an hour at every
train? Because let's say trains go through every hour or every half an hour.
Yeah,
you can get a pint in an hour easy. Maybe even
so they've just got a day ticket and going on a pub crawl.
Yeah, because
they ain't got fucking anything else to do.
Yeah, no, it's really good. Like there's there's a bunch of these in England where there are lines that people know they can go boozing on, and it's like a thing.
I'm not gonna lie, that sounds incredible.
I'd
be down with that.
And actually, one of the first people I introduced this to was a friend of mine from Australia who didn't quite believe it was a thing. And I was like, let's call him John. To not talk. But I was like, come on, John, let's go. This is great. And he had a great time. He was like, this is amazing. More places should have train pubs. I guess you don't have train pubs in Australia. So
no, like no one really gets on the train in Australia because it's shit. And
we got like that one train, haven't you?
Well, I mean, so primarily in Australia, the trains are just around like the cities. So lots of people use it for that, commuting around the cities. But like country trains, there is one, but you know, the stops are like just a box. You know, it's not like a place. It's just a box with a car park, and you get out and you get in your car, or someone picks you up and you piss off to where you're going.
Or like in America, where they're often not even that. It's just like literally like a piece of raised tarmac, and it's like get off or whatever.
Get off, thanks.
Yeah, Fraser, Colorado.
Tuck and roll.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking of. Fraser, Colorado, where you literally pull up and it's like, no, this is the stop for that place. There's like one before that on that line where the platform is really low. It's like recessed into the valley because it's near the Colorado River, but the town is like, you know, like a bit higher up, and there's just like a load of steps up from the platform. And apparently, if you walk up all the steps to the height of the road, it's only like 50 meters or something. But because of where the whistle is that blows to say the train is leaving in 2 minutes, you can't actually hear it from up on the road. So people go up to the road to take a photo of the town, and then the train pulls away. And it's because it's America, the train is every fucking day. So apparently, like on the reg, people get out, leave all their shit on their table or whatever. They go up, they take a photo, turn around, train fucks off. And they're now no money, like staying in this random town. Is like, I guess it's Colorado. I can't remember the name of it. It's the one, I think it's the stop before Fraser, Colorado.
I don't know. I don't really know the trains in the States very much. I mean, all I've heard about them is don't use them. So
that's completely bullshit. The trains are awesome. They're just comedically slow compared to, you know, countries that have.
Yeah, I mean, so that's the thing, right? So I've been on one train before in the state. I mean, I've been on a ton because I've been from Portland, so they have light rail and stuff. But the only time I've actually used the trail to like travel between places, I learned that trains are lower priority than like commercial trains. And so like there was one time where we're in the middle of the mountains and we had to get off onto a different like exit so that a coal train could go past. But in the time that we were here, like off on the side, the train, like the operator suddenly like hits 8 hours turned over, and by the union, he can't work for more than 8 hours. And so we were just there for like 6 hours for a new crew to drive in to take us like the final 20 minutes to the train station. So after that, I was like, absolutely not. Well, it was like literally in the mountains in the middle of winter, and it was actually like, 15 miles or whatever. But it was like some absolutely ridiculous situation where they had to drive in from, the other side of the state.
Yeah, it's because most of the cross-country rail lines are still owned by the freight operators, aren't they?
Yeah, exactly. Yep. And so they have to get off of the next thing so that the freight can go by. And if you're there for an hour, then suddenly their clock ticks over and you're like, well, I can't go anywhere. I guess we'll just hang out for 6 hours until the next train comes.
My favorite backwater of American history is all the stuff about the railway wars, where the freight operators were getting paid to build the railway. And so they were like sabotaging each other's railways and stuff to make them look incompetent, the federal government, so that they can get the contract to build the other railways and shit. Like, it just sounds unbelievable, but it's totally true. Anyway,
well, hold on. I have one more thing to say about railways since we're talking about that. Did you know that the railways are actually the reason why the bison almost went extinct? They were so prolific that the railways, they would interrupt the timing schedules, that the U.S. military was like, listen, we can't deal with this. It's open season on bison. Go have fun.
Really?
I shit you not.
Shit.
And then here's another better bit. The guy who brought bison back was actually like some footballer who just happened to like bison, and so he like created a ranch with like the last 100 bison, and then like basically turned into, the 500,000 or whatever we have now. Just some footballer liked them and decided to
Wasn't
bring
that
back
partly how you got a lot of your wolves back as well? Because they were largely hunted out. And then
yes,
from some people were had them still in some bits of the US, and they were basically just putting them in an RV, driving them across the country, and then releasing them in a national park. If they got stopped, it's oh, look at all my huskies. These don't look like huskies, sir. These look like wolves. No, they're just all my huskies, just driving across.
Partially true. Partially true. However, it is true that there is not a single wolf in the US that is still native from lower 48. All of the wolves that we have that are in the US now are actually imported from Canada.
Wow.
Yep, because they were completely brought to extinction.
I thought it had been the south to north, but it's north to south, is it?
Yep.
I see. We're learning. You may not be learning about the cosmos right now, but we're learning about important keystone species that keep us from the impending environmental collapse that we're all going to face in a few years. Anyway.
Our viewership is down, lads. Do you think this is because we don't actually fucking talk about anything we're supposed to?
maybe this is why we keep getting rugged. Cause Less Harm says Reading Station Pub is one of the best things in Reading. Nice callback to the fact that I hate Reading. And yes, I've actually been sick in Reading Station Pub. That's fun fact.
Okay, so let's move on. Right. So the Frey, is anything in the spreadsheet here is this accurate? Are these the things that we're going to talk about today? Have you looked at the spreadsheet?
Yeah,
we've got follow-ups. So
we had a whole set of the follow-ups. I think the follow-up. Sorry, I didn't delete those from last week.
Okay, so it's not
the rest of it. All the questions for Code Hands. I put them in as placeholders, but I have actual questions on my notepad. I actually prepared for this, like an interviewer.
I got up early to prepare for this morning, only to find that we'd been rugged. So, I mean, that didn't work out for me. I went back to sleep.
Well, at least you got some sleep. That's something. So yeah, we've got. To be fair, we've got some guests coming up in the next few weeks who hopefully won't rug us. So I'm pretty excited about that. But
so can we reveal our lineup, or are we too scared that we might get rugged?
Will we get rugged again? If we reveal it, do we get rugged? Well, okay. So we're supposed to have Ethan on in a couple of weeks.
For those who don't know, Ethan Frey, the father of Cosm Wasm.
Yeah, very exciting.
Which is the first Frey? I know that he was the first Frey in the cosmos, but how long have you been going by the Frey? That's what I want to know.
I have been going. The Frey has been my handle since. I want to say 2004. So
you probably are the first Frey then.
I might be the first Frey, but I'm not. Well, it depends what Ethan's handle was. If it had his name in it, then yeah, he was the first Frey in the cosmos. Anyway, I chose unwisely when I first. What would have been joined the Cosmos Discord or whatever, and was like, I just use my regular handle.
It is a little bit inconvenient having two Freys that are both developers. It's quite confusing.
It's quite easy though, because you remember the one of them's actually a quite serious, credible developer, and the other one's me. So that's a pretty easy way of remembering which one's which. If you're kind of just complains a lot, shit posts on Twitter, probably me, does credible low-level work, designs systems, builds teams, probably Ethan. It's not too hard to work out which one's which. But yeah, so that'll be exciting. And then we've got a couple of other people on from other chains, haven't we? But we just need to sort out the dates. So also, I certainly feel actually that since our burnout cast last week, I don't know about you, but I actually feel a little bit better because I spent it was a bank holiday weekend here, and I spent a good chunk of it making drum and bass in my spare room, but where I am now.
Was the burnout cast last week? Huh.
Yeah, I know.
Seems like a few weeks ago.
that's burnout for you. So, you know, with that in mind, I kind of looking at what we're doing now and going like, fucking hell, it really is. We are really in a kind of low energy bear market situation now, aren't we?
I don't know. I kind of feel a little bit rejuvenated this week. I've been, you know, getting into the trawl on the chats and, you know, cranking things up again. I really need to improve my Twitter game. I don't spend enough time on Twitter, apparently.
You know, you can like schedule that shit, right?
My delegations are down, man. I need to get it and stir some shit up on Twitter.
Maybe you should show a picture of your boner.
I don't feel like I can compete with Vitalik. He's got quite the hog.
So in the pre-show, Noel was talking about prices being up because of Vitalik, and we had to explain to Shortsy what was going on. So
the Ethereum price shooting up. VDick. So I mean the token is VDick. Presumably that's Vitalik's dick.
Somebody made a token.
Yes, of course. Vitalik Big Dick Inu. Liquidity 143,000.
Okay, so not great.
Wow,
great.
I mean, that's pretty high for just some shitcoin.
That's like pretty decent compared to like a lot of the Cosmos coins on Osmosis, for example. Fully diluted value, $476,000.
Oh, so it's got quite a low cap then.
Yeah, it's still $500,000 worth of dick he's packing.
Sounds like it's time to invest.
This is not financial advice, folks. Do not go and buy this.
Yeah, do not go and validate that shit. Although, to be fair, well, ETH is still not proof. This is how fucking out of it I am.
Have they done the merge yet? I don't know.
The merge hasn't happened, has it?
I don't pay attention to that.
No. The merge is in like 2 weeks or something.
I feel like out of all of the Game of Nodes crew, Schultz is probably the most likely to know what is happening with ETH validators.
Yeah.
Are you going to be running on ETH? Are you running a validator? That feels like a thing you might do.
It seems like something I would do. Yeah. I don't have 32 ETH to just stack on a validator. I'll be honest. Like, I'm not that loaded.
What is that? Is that about 50 grand?
Yeah, give or take. That's about right.
What was the all-time high on ETH? Like, again, I'm showing how fucking stupid I am right now, but
like
6,000?
6,000? Yeah, something like that.
Something like that.
Right, okay, so pretty hefty chunk of change then at peak. But then I suppose, you know, the buy-in a lot of Cosmos chains is over 100K, isn't it? So
when I first got into validating, I wanted to be like an ETH validator, and then like promptly didn't anymore. I don't know why.
Got bored of waiting.
It just seemed like I don't know like that there's that much value in it for a validator unless you're like a big one, right? Only really there's thousands of them, man. There's thousands and thousands of validators.
Yeah, it really seems like something where you build a name recognition and then have them delegate to you. I mean, like, I'm no Kraken, right?
Yeah, like I just feel like smaller operators aren't really going to be any kind of profitable. So
yeah, it's pretty centralized in terms of stake, isn't it, at the moment as well? Like even more.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's like one operator controls like a few nodes, which controls like most of the network.
Right. Okay.
So far as I've heard, in passing in some news that I read one day at some point.
But as an aside, though, that's an interesting. It does make you realize that, you know, as we were sort of saying, oh well, actually, you know, a lot of Cosmos networks, the buy-in is quite high. If you nobody's got 100 grand lying around. That's the problem with a high buy-in. But hypothetically, a validator is supposed to self-stake their way into the set, aren't they? That's like, because you're either in or you're out, right? And you see this with validators falling out of the set.
Yeah, I don't know that you can say that. I don't know that that's written anywhere that you're supposed to buy yourself into the set. I think like, it's kind of
implied. Yeah.
No. Well, take Oni, for example.
He's nodding. No, I'm not being crazy. I'm pretty sure this is the intention. That you
I don't agree.
Into the set.
I just don't agree.
Not in the Cosmos. I would say not in the Cosmos. However, outside of the Cosmos, that is the norm. That's why it's proof of stake, because your stake is on the line.
Yeah.
And the Cosmos, I think, is the only one that deviates from that.
Yeah,
that I'm aware of.
But it is also true that a lot of networks, like say Stargaze, if you were in their test nets and proved that you could run the nodes and you got all the way to mainnet, it's locked, so it's not yours, but you are self-staked enough to be in the set, right? So it's not completely unheard of either for foundation-based chains to delegate their validators in the set. Regen did it too, from memory. So granted, like you do work up front for free and then you get staked into the set. So that's one way of doing it. And then after Genesis, you can stake yourself into the set, which means that if you're staked enough to jump a few slots, you're a bit more robust to delegators leading, right? I think that's the notion, right? But
take someone like Oni. They didn't buy themselves into a lot of sets. They crowdsourced their way into a lot of sets.
Yeah, sure. But then those delegators could flee to another validator and Oni would drop out, and the remaining delegators would get slightly rugged by that. So if you have enough stake to, and there's a second point actually, which is that if you have enough stake to get yourself into the set, again, like ignoring the fact this is a lot of money, it's difficult to do. That minimum stake. So we as Needlecast, we buy for the networks we believe in, which at the moment is a small list. We do actually buy, and it's scattered around various places, but we do self-stake from various wallets, right? And the reason that we are even breaking even in the bear market at the moment, really, a lot of the time, is because of that, with the return on the self-stake in staking rewards, not in validator commission. And I've been thinking about this in terms of the economics of the bear market. Like that, that floor of, okay, maybe 100K is like extreme, like 50K or, whatever it would be on ETH2 now, right? Which is like, I've already forgotten how much you said it was, surely, like 32 times 3? What's the price of ETH right now?
1,500. So it's like $50,000 buy-in.
It's like $50,000. So $50,000 buy-in. If you had a $50,000 buy-in on RHINO, let's say, and you bought in, you self-staked it all yourself, like you funded it as a company, that would be enough, I think, to like at least at current inflation to actually break even and make a small profit. I would have thought so. So there is an interesting thing about the economics of it there, possibly, with crowdsourcing versus actually, self-staking some amount. Like it's an upfront cost, but it's, I guess, again, it depends on your tax regime, doesn't it? For you, Null, it would make sense, right? Because Australia, it's an asset. So you almost as a company buy it, put it on the imaginary shelf of my company crypto, and then Kingnodes go, well, we have in our warehouse, as you know, Australian government, we have 18,000 Junos or whatever the amount is that you have to do to get in, all racked up, in a warehouse, as is proper with our crypto, looked over by top men, and then that's how you then, and then that's like a substantial income stream, isn't it? Yeah.
Well, actually, it's funny you mentioned that, because Kingnodes actually make more money from self-stake than what they do from delegations.
Right. So, in fact, exactly the same as Needlecast are in the bear market, which is that we make more money from our self-stake. Okay, that's really interesting. I just think that's an interesting data point. Like, obviously, you have to. The difficulty, I suppose, is that at least one of those self-stake pools is earned for upfront work that was done for free ahead of time, and then when chain launches, blah 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 blah. So it's difficult. If we had to pay a pound value to self-stake into that set, that would be more of a difficult question, I think. But it is interesting how the economics of that thrash out, I think. And it is interesting, like Schultzy says, that the expectation is so different in other networks. Like, we've all been experimenting around with Sui and Aptos. Sui, is that how you pronounce it? Whatever.
I call it Sui.
You call it
I
what?
did, until I heard him say it online, and I was like, Sui it is, okay.
Okay, righto. You the boss.
Sui. Oh, I guess, is it from the Latin?
Maybe, I don't know.
I guess would that be pronounced Sui in Latin? I think so.
Aptos was
Sui generis, right?
I don't know. Aptos is a Native American word, I believe, about like it's called like the people or something, I think.
Very lofty. Yeah, but like the expectation is anyway on those networks. I think the way staking works is much closer to what Schultz is describing, right? And it does seem like that's the case in a lot of other networks.
I think that it works out for Cosmos that self-stake isn't as much of a thing because it's so extensible. I think for networks like Aptos, like Near, like Solana, it does make more sense that your self-stake needs to be higher because it's not extensible like Cosmos is, right? So you're not expected to like provide support for all these different networks in doing so. So you need to be really bought into the network in order to support it. I think from like that's why like if I had 32 ETH, I would spin up a validator because why would I spin up a validator, right? But I don't have 32 ETH. Similarly, if I had enough stake to do Solana, I probably would just because well it's going to sit there. I could stake it with someone, or since I'm already an operator of validators, I might as well just operate my own validator and then get more people in and stuff.
Yeah, I wonder if that's going to be more the way things will go in future. Like the successful networks will professionalize in that way, in the sense that people who can self-stake will predominantly become the validators because it's essentially like any other kind of business income stream, which is as reliable as the tokenomics when averaged out over a longer period of time. If the network has actual utility, and the complicated thing right now is that I'm not sure any of us would like put $50,000 or whatever against a highly speculative network that might not actually have utility yet, right? And even like, okay, I'm not going to name any names, but there is also some networks that are coming along now that I think we're all quite like behind, where maybe their communication isn't good or whatever, and you're kind of like, they're not mainnet yet or whatever, and you're just like not getting any updates and things, and you're like, well, they seem to have a product, it seems to work, but is this team going to make it? The software might be fine. So yeah, at that point, the idea of self-staking with like cash money is quite a speculative investment, isn't it? Like somewhere beyond speculative and into actively risky.
Well, and what's also interesting about that is that one of the things I like about the way Cosmos does it is the fact that it's not open like that, because if it did require buy-in in the start, that means that you would, at least for the US, you would need to come in as a certified investor, which means you need more than $1 million or blah, 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 a couple other criteria. So like I couldn't be a validator, right? Because I'm not technically a certified investor, because I wouldn't be able to invest in these ICOs because it's illegal for me to do so if not. So I just wouldn't be able to start on these networks for that buy-in.
What do you mean
it
it's
complicates
illegal?
it one more layer.
So you can't buy into an ICO unless you're a sophisticated investor. Is that what you're saying in America?
That is correct. Technically correct. Yes. It's like it's like investing in a private company. Technically, you aren't supposed to really do that. Or like they're not supposed to let you do it unless you're a certified investor. Like they can be like fined. Like you couldn't go to jail for it, but they would be fined for it.
I don't think it's like that in Australia.
I don't think it's like that in most places.
I didn't think it was like that in England either, because I remember when Stargaze launched, I was talking to Meow about this, and it just seemed like loads of legal complications. I was like, fucking hell. I mean, like, I'm pretty sure in England, you just like fucking rock up. If you've got the money, you slaps it on the table, you pays your money, takes your choice, no worries. And then I looked it up, and I was completely fucking wrong, dead fucking wrong. There are whole categories of investment you just can't get involved in. In the UK, it's the same. Unless you're basically a member of the ruling class, you're not fucking allowed. And
there are like situations in Australia where you need to be a sophisticated investor. You have to have a certain amount of assets or trading volume or trading history or something like that to be able to use certain platforms, I think, or to be able to use like futures trading or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. There's a whole bunch of things like that. But in the one thing is different is in the UK, I don't think crypto is one of those things. Crypto is just seen as high risk bullshit. Do whatever.
No one gives a fuck about crypto. They're like, go lose your money, friend. It's fine.
Yeah.
If you make some, we'll take a big chunk. Thank you.
Yeah, well, yeah, kind of. I think that it's just it doesn't involve owning land or subjugating the working class in the same way that the upper class understands. They're not interested in it right now. But when they realize how much money there is to be made, I'm sure they will be interested in it.
Well, definitely. I think the government's view is definitely lose your money if you want, but should you make a large chunk, we will be knocking on your door very quickly.
Oh yeah, sure, but it's not the government. Well, at least in my
Are
country,
you saying
not the government.
The elite haven't found a way to oppress the working class through crypto yet?
No, they
what you're
probably
saying?
have. They probably have. Yeah. Let's be honest. All those bitcoins floating around that are just like obviously owned by like. Okay, I'm not gonna get. Let's not even get. Let's not even play. There's a reason that the richest, most powerful people in the world like are able to like.
Yes, because they have a lot of money, sir.
Yeah, they have a lot of money and they hedge that. They can afford to YOLO a lot of money into random speculative shit like Bitcoin early doors, and so they'll be fine. Well,
FYI, I've just done a calculation. The the buy-in for Juno at the moment, the buy-in is $157,482.60.
And that's because Soy 2 Studio said it's 29k Juno at the moment. Lowest Juno stake is now 29k Juno.
29,436 or 37 Juno to jump into the active set. It's quite a few.
So, all right, maths boy, if you buy in with 160 grand, that dollars, right?
That's United States dollars, not
so not
bucks.
dollary dues. Not dollary dues. Okay, right. So if you jump in with that, what are you going to make in the next year?
I would be pretty good at answering this if I wasn't super certain on the happening or whatever that's coming, right?
Yeah, that's
that complicates it quite.
With that self stake and the halvening coming, I would estimate at that, if the price of the token never changed, you'd be looking at probably about 50,000 in staking rewards over the next year, given the decline in the the return from people staking. So the staking rate will keep increasing. So APR will keep decreasing. Plus you've got your halvening, 30 to 50 grand in that window somewhere, I'd say.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So then deduct running costs. So if you're running on AWS, a lot. if you're running a Hetzner, much more reasonable. So you can.
Well, if you're running on Hetzner, your costs in the year would probably be about 30 cents. So
yeah. So actually, you know what? So yeah, I am wrong here, aren't I? Because I'm wrong about the economics of it working out. That might be the bear market talking.
Well, and I think this is the state where if you're creating a business, then you're probably hedging your bets against multiple networks for staking, right? That's kind of what we've seen. And yeah, the buy-in might take a couple of years to pay it back out. But in that time, like he's assuming that the price stays the same, right?
Yeah,
and
that's
the
a
joining network
price.
is because you assume it's going to go up, right? So you're hedging your bets really against it going up, not against
your toes and your
legs.
legs.
Exactly. Yeah.
So what you're saying is loan shark the money, buy into a set, and you can make $50,000.
Or you could be missing some arms very soon.
Means $30,000, which what's the median salary for an engineer in the US these days?
Depending on experience,
200,000,
150,000, I think.
How
a day?
You'll see.
I think it's 150,000 a year is like the median.
$150,000. Okay, so at the moment, being in crypto and doing that would be incredibly unprofitable.
Yeah.
Well, if you're talking about running a single node with 160 grand of self stake, that's about 1 hour's work a month, plus the drama, another 30 or 40 hours a month.
I was gonna say you're just not accounting for the drama.
And so you could still be an engineer. You just weekend drama it on Juno and be an engineer during the week.
Maybe this is why there's more drama at the weekend.
But I mean, to be honest, if you're going to self-stake 160 grand, just pay someone fucking 5% and don't worry about doing your node. Like, who gives a shit? It's 5%.
Yeah, fair enough. I don't know. Like, I think I don't know. The economics of this stuff is I think pretty crazy, and it's one of those things where you can kind of go until this stabilizes into something where you're making more in the bad times, but you're making way fucking less in the good times. That's going to be the sign that the whole eco is actually like mature enough to make it. I think because it just feels like
I didn't understand that at all. What was that?
What?
You're making more in the bad times and less in the good times by self-staking? Is that what you said?
No.
I think in relation to right now, right?
Yeah. I think like the maturity of the ecosystems will be measured in the fact like in the bad times, we're making more than we currently are in the bad times, but in the good times, we're making way less than we currently are. So like at the moment, you make a year's income as a business in like 2 months when there's a bull run.
Oh, and then you have to suffer the next 10.
And then the next 10 months, you're like us right now, we're losing money on some of the stuff we're running. Blah, 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 our setup. But also like, you know.
something, AWS, something, dickhead.
Been over this, not interested. But the point is like, even if you're running on the absolute cheapest stuff you wouldn't be like rolling in it right now. But those economics like portray a system that's not mature, right? Surely.
I think if you're above 50 on a couple of good networks, like you're still pretty comfortable as a validator at the moment. If you're not running on AWS. like if you're above 50, so if I look up here, so even on RHINO, right? Economically speaking, so 220, so call it 230,000, right? Junos. So 230K multiplied by, we'll call it $5. So that's a stake of 1.6 million, right? 0.05 is 80,000 times that by, we'll say an average of like 0.4. So 40%, 32 grand for a year. That's not bad money. That'll run your node. That'll make you fucking some noodles to eat.
Yeah. I guess it all comes back to whether you want to do it full time as well, doesn't it? And I think maybe, I mean, but this is the conversation we were having the other week, isn't it? Like how many nodes?
Right. Not on AWS.
Okay. No, but like how many networks should a validator validate? That was the question we were talking about the other week, right?
Well, I mean, yeah. So how many can you comfortably do? Quite a few, I think, depending on how the networks run.
That's actually, again, it's like whether that is good for decentralization, but also whether that's even like because this is where Cosmos is unique, except maybe Polkadot, but even then I think unique in the sense of if you know how to run Cosmos nodes, you can run a lot of networks.
Oh, for sure. And pretty cost
it's
effectively.
The only ecosystem where that's true, where you can horizontally scale your operation as a validator quite easily. But that feels like it's not the intention of the original. Well, but then interchain security. So it is kind of the intention of the authors of the software, right? Which is weird to me because it's just consolidation of power in the hands of a few people. I mean, it doesn't feel like that in a bear market because what power? But you know what I mean? Like in the good times, like that, if you were getting up on networks now and able to suck up the L, you would, you know, if every Cosmos chain is lifted by a new bull run in a year, let's say, and you could eat the loss until then as a new node operator, but you just like your maths now, let's say get into the 70th percentile, let's say 75th slot on a bunch of networks, that's got to be profitable.
I think in the long run,
even running a loss for a year beforehand, let's say.
Well, I mean, it depends on your, like as a company, your policy on how you manage your risk too. Like if you have, so say you're in a bear market, right? You're just eating the cost of running your nodes. And if you're just stacking your tokens instead of selling them, come the bull market, you'll be set. You can offload some during a nice bull market, and then you make your profit for the year in the 2 months of bull market, and then you're back to eating loss again for like the next 10 months.
Yeah. It's I don't know, it's just the economics of it are pretty crazy. Like if coming from like, normal software consultancy or infrastructure work or anything like that, where it's just so clockwork predictable, like, some of that stuff you even invoice like bi-weekly or whatever. I mean, you do okay, I don't want to dox what you do now, but day job, you invoice bi-weekly, don't you?
Monthly.
Is it monthly? Okay, my mistake.
But I mean, it's another company, so that company does its invoicing monthly.
Okay, but yeah, I don't know. It's pretty strange anyway. You know what else is strange? For those listening along in the chat, Null has not seen This Is Spinal Tap. I'll just repeat that again. Null has not seen the film, the iconic comedy This Is Spinal Tap, and he doesn't.
Have you seen it, Schultzy? I see you smirking like you've seen it, but have you seen it?
I have seen it. I do, in fact, know that there's only one place you can turn it up to 11 at. This
is that where that came from?
That is where that comes from. Yeah.
No shit.
It's a documentary, a rockumentary, if you will.
I'm not alone. Toy2 Studio hasn't seen it either.
The sounds and the smells of a rock and roll band on tour.
The smells. Oh. Is that the description of it on like?
That's word for word the introduction. Yeah. I saw this band at the Purple Banana Rock Club. Don't look for it now; it's not there anymore. And they blew me away with their passion, their energy, and their punctuality. It's just the best film ever.
Are you reading reviews? Are you reading like online reviews? Is that what you're doing?
What, me?
Yeah.
No, I'm just quoting.
I think it's a quote.
Yeah, quotes. I mean, I wouldn't know. I haven't seen it, and I also don't run around memorizing quotes.
And now you get because this is the thing. I don't even know how many times I've seen that film. Like,
but also like
the original.
I just watched a couple of clips earlier. That
you don't watch it out of context. Watch the film. It's only an hour long. It's like
what I saw was pretty funny. I'll probably watch it after this if I can find it.
Literally an hour and 20 long. Just watch the whole thing as it's intended to be watched.
Is it on YouTube? Can I watch the whole thing on YouTube?
No, but it's also it'll be on Prime or something for like £1. Like, give them new money. They're all still alive. Give them new money. Whatever.
What the fuck is £1?
And fun fact. Christopher Guest, who plays Nigel Tufnell, fans of source code that I've written will notice that Nigel Tufnell features in my unit test from time to time. He is Christopher Guest, married to Jamie Lee Curtis, weirdly. He's also the 5th Baron Guest. He was a hereditary peer of the House of Lords and campaigned for Lords reform in the United Kingdom. Basically, he lived in Canada, and he only came back to the UK to vote in votes that were basically abolishing hereditary peers from the House of Lords, because he was a hereditary peer, like as in his family had land and shit. And eventually they did get rid of hereditary peers, and he's, I guess, now not a peer in the House of Lords, but he was just by birth, despite being like a comedian.
Everything you say about like
fun fact about
the English politics always sounds so regal, like so polished, all his names.
Oh, because he was the Baron Hayden Guest. I mean, he was a baron.
And a baron.
That even if you're just in the House of Lords or whatever, you don't just get to be a baron. That's not a thing.
We don't have any nobility in Australia because we're all convicts.
I mean, it's probably better to have no nobility. The nobility is a really bad thing to have. It really sucks.
Rarma says, are you implying Null's caravan has those smells?
I think it has the sights, the sounds, and the smells.
It has this. It has a good sights. It's actually got a nice view on the outside. It doesn't have any sounds, but it does have smells because my trash can is inside. So,
I'd also say Best in Show should be next for you as well. That's another good film. And A Mighty Wind. Mighty Wind is also very good if you're a fan of Spinal Tap and the work of Christopher Hayden Guest. Or Christopher Guest, as you should probably correctly call him, because I don't think he likes being referred to That's his now defunct peer title.
What is it? Best in Show. Is that the name
Best
of
in
it?
Show. I think it got nominated for like an Academy Award for Best Comedy or something like that. It's just really, really deadpan. It's about a dog show, and there's a bunch of actors, like quite famous actors in it, and they're all just very deadpan. Like it's like the thing of the dog, the owner is like the dog, and it's very, 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 very dry comedy, basically.
I mean, that's kind of like the MO of mockumentaries, right? Where like they're making a bunch of jokes, but they're acting like they're not jokes. Like the show What We Do in the Shadows.
Oh,
Man,
I love that show.
is to die for.
Yeah. Man, do you know it's actually a problem?
Well, Nathan Barley. We were talking about Nathan. Well, I guess Nathan Barley's not dry comedy. It's not dry. It's very over the top, isn't it?
I was watching that last night. So
Trashbad.com.
this is actually Game of Nodes is becoming a problem for me in that a lot of my time now has been spent catching up on these freaking shows. So I mean, whilst they're all quality except for Master and Commander, it's been very time consuming. Thank you. And how in the fuck am I supposed to read these books? It's all these books floating around now.
Yeah, it's really inconvenient. All that learning.
Completely unrelated, by the way. I'm meeting up with Rarma on this next week for a beer.
Doxed.
Well, not really. How?
Now we know which continent, and probably which part of which continent.
Doesn't everybody know that he's an Aussie? You can tell by the times that people are awake.
Not everybody fucking stalks the times that people are awake now. Like,
you no?
I mean, not everybody's like, oh no, so and so can't be Potmoss because they're awake at different times.
What if you just go and look on his Twitter though, and look at the country that it's registered?
Oh, I mean, okay, that's just quite smart. Fair enough. I just didn't think of doing that. But,
well, I mean, I don't think it's like a metric that has to be available, but I think it's available by default when you fill it in. So, Rama says you'll be on the show at some point. Will you just? Okay. Welcome.
Welcome. I think at this point, like we had Callum on, we have people who shitpost on. We've already made that. We've already made that a thing, so that should be a thing.
I mean, I could just send him the invite link now.
Be my guest.
He's like, not this show.
Like
a show.
The pure business cast, which is a mixture of like trains, niche economics of validation, and then the films of Christopher Guest.
Now hold on. Now you can't leave out Bison and Wolves. That's important.
Bison and Wolves. Hey, I learned a great fact about the film Heat today, which I would definitely put in a pub quiz in future. It is based on a true story. Yeah. What? I know.
We're talking about the. Hold on. I need to make sure I'm thinking of the right Heat.
Hold on. Right. That's the reaction.
Sorry, what? You need what now?
Yeah, Michael Mann's Heat. Al Pacino. Robert De Niro.
Haven't seen it.
Based on what?
Is that a movie you're talking about?
I'm kind of impressed. I had no idea that was based on. Now hold on. Is this when you say it's based on like a true story? Do you mean like when you squint a little bit, you can kind of sort of see the right arcs, or is it actually like this happened and here's kind of a reenactment but dramatic?
So obviously, the big shootout downtown LA did not happen. You would have seen a news report, but
I don't know if I would say. I don't know if you can say that definitively. I mean, there's been like so many riots in LA that for the most part, shootings in LA just don't make the news.
All right, actually, so brief tangent. God, I know I'm known for them. Jeff Menor's book, A Burglar's Guide to the City, really, really interesting if you're into academic architecture and also criminology and the combination of the two of them. It's a book primarily about the way that space is subverted by criminals, and it basically came off. He writes this blog about architecture, and it came off of an essay he wrote about how John McClane in Die Hard subverts the Nakatomi Tower in a way that the terrorists don't expect. The terrorists are used to seeing architectural space as the designers of the building intended. Like you're in the public area and you look around and there's a lift and stuff. And John McClane is like, no, I'll go in the air vent, I'll go in the lift, I'll do whatever I need to do to get around this building. and so he understands more about architectural space. Rarma, how's it going?
Good morning.
Than the terrorists understand about the space, and that's why he's able to better them.
That's all the introduction you're gonna get, bro.
Right. And so Jeff Manor wrote this essay, and he ties it also to the IDF's tactics in the Gaza Strip, where they specifically they literally read postmodern theory in their military academy and went, well, the city is a construct. We can deconstruct the city by literally just knocking our way through walls. And then if we see a sniper at the end of the street, we'll just knock through a bunch of walls and then come up from the floor underneath them. And so he wrote about this. And A.L. Wiseman, who's also a really interesting theorist in this area, who's also part of the forensic architecture group that do some really interesting art stuff around. It sounds really dark, but because it is dark, but they do architectural analysis and human rights watchdog stuff mixed with art. A.L. Wiseman's research group. So them and Jeff Manor, these two sets of essays about this stuff. Anyway, so then Jeff Manor went and wrote a book, which is all about criminals and the city, and a lot of it focuses on LA because of the number of bank robberies in LA, right? Because it's apparently the world capital for it. And at one point in the 90s, there was literally a bank robbery that was every 45 seconds on average. It was something crazy. It was like, it's either 45 seconds or like 4 minutes 45. And the reason for it is that loads of banks in LA were built near motorway off-ramps because it's a really efficient place to put a bank to get near customers. But at some point, the criminals worked out, well, you can literally just drive around the orbital, come off and rob a bank and then fuck off. And there's this whole interesting section about how LAPD tactics, the doctrine of their police is so heavily based around helicopters for this reason. And that they essentially adopt tactics from US Navy's helicopter carriers to actually patrol and cover the area that they want to, just like they were hunting for submarines and shit. Like, it's a really interesting thesis, the whole thing. Whether or not it's true or not, I don't know, but obviously the facts about the bank robbing and stuff are true. And the two films, I think, that specifically were inspired by that period of bank robbery were Heat and what's the one with the really weird second half with Keanu Reeves with the surfers.
I know this one.
The
Breakpoint?
Breakpoint. Yeah.
Point Break. Yeah.
Breakpoint, yeah.
So Point Break is also based on that period, where they're knocking off smaller banks, but they're just doing it repeatedly. That's apparently like quite accurate for what was happening in that period of time.
Fascinating. I didn't know that.
So specifically, anyway, Heat is based on there was an inspector, whatever the Americans call it, I don't know, and a famous thief in Chicago. One was knocking off banks, one was trying to hunt him. The policeman spent most of his career trying to catch this guy. And one night he walks in while on duty into a coffee diner and he sees the thief and he sits down at a table with him and they have a coffee and then they go different ways, they're separate ways. And so the diner scene in Heat is like the jumping off point for the entire story. But basically that police officer, after he retired, became a technical advisor to Hollywood. Michael Mann met him and they were shooting the shit on some set. He was just like, let me tell you a story. I was chasing this guy for this many years and we sat down and had a coffee and it was super fucking intense. We realized we were basically we were really similar. We would have been friends, we're just different sides of the law, but like basically.
How have I not seen this?
And so the coffee, so the diner scene is like that completely happened. And so Michael Mann was like, fuck, you could write a whole film based on that. And he was like, well, let me tell you. But obviously that happened in like the 50s or whatever. So it's obviously brought up to the present. But there were like, obviously.
So to confirm, they sat down at the coffee shop after he'd retired from the force, or while he still
while he was still chasing him.
That's like some Joker and Batman type of thing, where the Joker gets Batman and is like, that's like not even the fun. Release him. Let's keep this fun going.
Isn't it?
So Soy2 Studio says this is essential viewing, Null. I am now aware. I will watch it. I am very sorry that I haven't seen it.
It's a great film.
I feel like
Rarma, what's your take on Heat versus Point Break? There we go. Which one's better in your opinion?
I'm gonna also say I don't remember seeing it.
Well, Point Break's an incredible movie.
I've seen Point Break. I haven't seen Heat.
Yeah, I've got to go Point Break just because. Wow, I feel bad for saying this. What's his name? The blonde-haired guy. I totally lost his name. But I was gonna say I'll watch it just for him. Patrick Swayze. That's the one. I'll watch it just for him because he's just. He's in it. You're right.
Yeah.
So he wins.
Patrick Swayze, Keanu Reeves, Gary Busey. Huh?
Such a strange film. That entire second half, like I watched. My wife hadn't seen it, and during lockdown, I showed it to her, and she was like, "It's like they had two movies they wanted to make, and they just jammed them together in like an hour and 20 minutes in. The movie just switches, like as in you look down and you look up, and they've just changed the reel in the film, and it's just a different film playing, but with all the same actors."
Well, and there's like really poor like editing across it. Like suddenly there are entire subjects that change. I can't remember them offhand, but like it is not a clean cut. Suddenly they're like I think he doesn't have a girlfriend anymore, or maybe his girlfriend, something happens with her. Like it's so bizarre.
Yeah, it's a pretty weird film. Heat is obviously demonstrably the better piece of work, but Point Break is probably more fun on balance.
I think objectively Heat's better, but subjectively I like Point Break more.
Guys, this is not looking good for our notes. So far I have Spinal Tap, Best in Show, Heat, Point Break. That's absolutely nothing to do with fucking what we do this for. Anyway, so hey, we brought up Rarma. Rarma's like, recently, when I say recently, I mean recently that I've been seeing him actually in the last few months. I'm sure he's been around longer, but I've noticed Rarma in the last few months, I guess you would say, on the Twitterverse, and quite active in the DPS scene. Not so much validating, but
so did you just say DPS scene?
Yeah, there's a whole scene now in Cosmos. It's the Cosmos DPS scene hashtag. So man, it's cool to have you up here. And I know it's morning there for you as well. It's 8 o'clock. So usually like you don't usually show up at the stream till about 8 o'clock because I don't know, family and stuff or whatever, but also 7 o'clock's early for some people.
Yeah, so I'm normally up like 6:30. I've got a wife and a 2-year-old daughter. 2-year-old daughter normally wakes me up around 6:30. So normally spend the morning with her, and she normally heads out the door for daycare around 7:30. That's why I normally miss the first half hour or so.
I have a 2-year-old daughter named Cosmos Nodes. They wake me up early, and I spend the first part of the morning with them. It's very sweet. Sorry.
It's nice you have a good deal with them on Thursdays that they don't bother you. I don't get that deal.
Mine's to be fair, I've been up 6
a week. So that's why I miss the show, because I spend the morning with her rather than just being on my phone most of the time.
Yeah, but you still always show up, so we appreciate that. You're
if
one of our 6 regular viewers.
I could make the whole show. Yep.
So I think our regular viewers are Rarma, Soy to Studio, Callum most of the time, Partial Match, Idols. I think that's like usually the people I see in the chat. Coin Waters, definitely. Yeah, the regular crew's here. Thanks, guys. Thanks for regularly watching us. I know we talk about a lot of shit.
Yeah, the regular crew get to find out that Rarma's actually a real person and get doxxed and not some criminal syndicate mastermind.
Well, to be fair, I don't think you're really doxxed. Only really doxxed as a real person.
As a face.
And the CEO of Raccoons.
Yeah, the CEO.
CTO. Chief Technical Officer. Yeah. Not a real title.
The Chief DPS Officer of Raccoons.
I think that'd definitely be Robbo. I don't create drama with the Raccoons.
Man has a propensity for creating drama for sure. So tell us, has there been what's been the main this week's drama? Actually, would it be 76 or was that last week?
76 is done, so I don't think that's a big drama thing at the moment.
It was though. It was.
It was the drama. Yeah, that was great. Honestly, I think the initial drama was probably a bit around the way that it was initially publicized to the community. There was instead of saying this proposal is just bad, it was this proposal is bad and the proposer is worse, which is, I try not to, attack individuals about proposals. I myself have been attacked about proposals. That's just how it goes, right? It's similar with like the gelato situation, right? Like when they asked for incentives, I was like, let's not attack the proposer. Let's just base the proposal on its merit, which is, I don't think that they have a product that warrants incentives. And that's enough for a no vote, right? Same thing with 76. Is 5% the right number? Probably not. Did they go about it the right way? Probably not. So it's a no vote, right? There's sufficient enough there to judge the proposal. We don't need to go on this, week-long argument about the proposer and, 100% commission and all this stuff. Let's just say we have enough information to vote it down. So let's vote it down and move on.
Totally agree, man. I think I made a tweet this week about, my love and hate of governments, in that, I love that people have opinions and that people have different opinions. But I hate, and I don't mind healthy debate as well, considered healthy debate. But oh my God, I absolutely hate it when people go on a rampage on social media and try and stuff their opinion down everybody's throat and try to slide into DMs and try to get people to sway their vote. It's so annoying. And I think completely unnecessary. I think say your piece and get out. But
yeah, I think the discussion was really good. Probably after the third day, there was some really good constructive discussion. Don and I had a bit of a spaces where we just kind of debated back and forth, whether 5% or 1% is the right number, or should it be 10%. I think that stuff's really healthy, just to kind of discuss and throw out different ideas and potential ways that you could improve the current system.
So on 76, so on this podcast, maybe not everybody knows what the hell we're talking about. So do you just want to give us a bit of a rundown on what the proposal was and why people were upset?
Yeah, so there's a new validator or VC that's entered the ecosystem not relatively recently, over the last few months. They NASDAQ BTC, they validate a number of chains. From what I can see, and I can't confirm it because the wallet IDs are not linked, every chain that they validate on, they've been putting the proposal up on that chain to increase minimum commission to 5%. They came to the hub, did the same thing. And the argument is that 0% commission validators provide little value and aren't incentivized to be innovative to get delegations, and they don't participate in governance. As a general rule, I would agree. And their proposal was to increase it to 5%. That's the exact same template as on Carver, as an example. They also validate on Carver, and a number of other chains they validate on have the same proposals. They all got rejected, but this isn't something that they've just come to the hub and done. It seems like it's a model that they're trying to introduce across the board, and they haven't communicated it with anyone, hasn't been on the Cosmos forum, etc. So they run 100% commission validator. So when you kind of put this stuff on chain and say, hey, increase it 5%, obviously people are going to look at that and just attack that as a thing, right? Because you're saying to increase it to 5%, and you're running 100%. What's the benefit to the ecosystem, and why would anyone be for that when you haven't discussed it? There's nothing that you haven't shown any evidence that will increase decentralization or increase activity within the validator set to promote more delegations and stuff.
That is kind of baffling that they have 100% validator and are putting up a proposal for a minimum 5%.
But what if it's all self-staked?
It is all self-staked.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for me, and this is the discussion and part of the discussion, right? For me, if someone runs 100% commission and you're sitting at 150 in the validator set and it's all self-staked, go for it. You're not. There's nothing scary about that.
I don't have a problem with that at all, to be honest.
Yeah. And then there's the discussion of should we run 100% or should there be a 99%? And if you choose to run 100%, then 0.5% of that goes to the community pool.
Why though? I don't understand why.
Why?
Because the argument there is that we need to promote decentralization, right? By running 100% commission, you can self-stake 5 million and go towards the top of the set, and then say Binance and Coinbase, if we get another 3 central exchanges doing that, they have enough vote power to stop the network.
Yeah, but I mean,
Right?
they've
So
bought
you
the
can
token.
basically,
So
yeah. So and that's the whole thing, right? It's a free market. You can do whatever you want.
yeah, I mean,
But let's take a cut back off them, so then they're not just continuously compounding these huge amounts of stake weight, and we can actually get a little bit back to do something with it in the community pool. This was just a random idea that someone threw out, by the way.
yeah, I mean, if that's an opinion that they have, then that should be it's all in or none in my opinion. If you're going to do that to someone who's self-staking a lot, everyone should get that tax and do whatever with it. So
yeah, and that could be a whole network
penalize
thing, right?
people for investing in an ecosystem, you know.
Yep. And it's the same thing, and that's the whole thing, right? Was if we're going to have a free market, it needs to be a free market, and that's across the board. That means 100%, 0%, airdrops, kickbacks, whatever you want to do, you can do it. That's what a free market is.
Yeah, I mean, I don't entirely understand why they do 100% validators. It doesn't really make much business sense to me. If it's all self-staked anyway, like why not let other people get in and take some of their as a commission? But
you just make money off your rewards, right? So, but
yeah, unless they. So the only reason to have 100% commissions, in my opinion, is money laundering. So.
Yeah, maybe.
Well, if you have anonymous wallets that you want to get the commission off, you can create yourself a 100% commission node, and then you anonymously stake to that node, and then you get the commission off at 100%. So you reap the benefit of the commission without being attached to the wallet. It's money laundering 101, people. Come on.
Right. So you create another wallet. And then
so presumably all your
stolen
money, or however you got this stuff that you want to launder, is in wallets, right? So you can just stake it to yourself and take 100% commission, then you 100% benefit from that, from the APR, without necessarily being able to be doxed as your wallet.
Trail, isn't there? Because the validator wallet that's taking the 100% commission is attached to a piece of infrastructure that's been paid for with a credit card.
Yeah, but that doesn't matter, right? The fact is that you can't prove that they own the wallet that's staked to it. So you take 100% of the return from that token without being necessarily doxed as the owner of the wallet that's staking.
Right. So you're right. So sorry, I misunderstood. I was like, okay, so you end up with the money scot-free on the other side, but you're saying you anon the wallet that's doing the staking, and then you're like, oh, I'm just running a validator collecting this money.
Yeah, I'm just running a validator, and this idiot with all this money has stake to it, and I'm taking all these APR. So say you've like run a website.
Running this 100% validator now?
I don't have 100% validator. We are Kingnodes, 5% across the board.
I'm just saying, you seem to know a lot about 100% validation. The economics, 100% validation.
You know, I'm the economics guy. I think about this while I'm taking a shit.
Do you take a lot of shits? Sorry, that. I'm not implying that you have some kind of digestive tract issue. That would be rude and presumptive.
No, but like, I don't know. It seems quite obvious to me that would be a good way to money launder if someone was going to do that.
There are actually some pretty compelling reasons to have 100%, in my opinion. One example is on Secret Network, you have the Ultra Network. And they were going to create 100% validators so that people that staked with their validator, they would get access to their app, right? So like it'd be like a subscription thing. And that way, if they did 100%, then people would be able to stake less in order to still get access, right? So they wouldn't need to stake $100; they'd only need to stake $10, and for that $10 that they have staked, they'd suddenly have access to their $15 a month app or whatever it is. I think it's a really interesting, compelling case for running validators in general, honestly, is using as some method of like a subscription service, or like maybe having someone as retainer. Maybe you can have someone as retainer by staking on their validator.
Well, I think that's so Notional kind of does that. I think like for networks where they provide, dev work and relays and stuff, I think sometimes they just ask that they get a stake to get the commission off to help pay for it. So
yeah, that's how it operates on kind of most chains, right? So RHINO and Osmo as examples. If you provide relaying service or do development within the ecosystem, the multi-sigs, whoever controls them, will delegate some of the reserve fund, right? And then you can pay for that infrastructure, etc., via commission. That doesn't work if you run 0% commission, and therefore you probably don't get delegations from the foundation. The same thing will happen on the hub. I haven't seen the document, but I can almost guarantee you that with the redelegation policy that will come in, which I think is available tomorrow, if you run a 0% commission validator, you won't get a delegation from the Interchain Foundation, because what's the point other than getting you in the active set or keeping you in the active set? The idea is to help you with the funding of being in the active set for relaying, etc.
So this has come about, right, because Jacob's been banging his drum for about 3 months on the ICF
Publicly,
delegations.
3 months.
Yeah. Well, very publicly for like the last month or so. Which, I mean, that's Jacob does that when he feels strongly about something. He definitely takes it to Twitter. So on the
I was in the research on that, and like, to be honest, he has a very compelling argument that it should have been updated long ago, and they admitted it, right? And it wouldn't have been updated if he probably didn't bang on the door as hard, right? The research that I put into the numbers, like, it's millions of dollars in Atom and like in the bull market. In commission. Yeah. So like, it's tens of millions of dollars that have gone out the door to validators who just sell all of their commission that have huge delegations from the Interchain Foundation, right? Which is fine. That's the validator's prerogative to sell their commission. But, should we be doing that to validators who don't contribute to the network, right? It's the same thing in RHINO. I would feel just as strongly in RHINO if the dev fund was being given to validators that provide zero value to the ecosystem. We should be looking at getting that updated too. So I think it's great that it's being updated. From what I hear, the document's really good, and it'll be really favorable for community validators, which will help a lot. So positive outcome.
Interesting to see their policy. I think there's a few updates that need to be made on the RHINO delegation handbook from the dev fund to be a little bit more inclusive. But yeah, I think there's across many networks, there's like lots of improvements that can be made on that front.
Pick your battles. That's what I'm learning very quickly.
Yeah.
Rarma,
I know that.
Sorry.
Sorry. Go, Frey.
Well, I was going to say, given that we're also around about 1 out of 10, and I'm keeping an eye on the clock as is my custom, we should probably actually give you a chance to show yourself, Rarma, and say, like, for those that obviously hang out in our chat, primarily they'll know you as a shit poster on Game of Nodes, but you work on a number of different projects, don't you?
Within the crypto ecosystem?
Within the Cosmos, and you do a lot of your Twitter storms involve a lot of research, right?
So people seem to think that I'm some underground paid shill or paid fodder. The reality is I have a 9-to-5 that I'm a lead consultant in like a software development software development firm was the word I wanted, in Australia, right? So I lead kind of projects from start to finish, and I manage a team that implement the software. That's my normal job, and that's like minimum 40, 50 hours a week. I have a wife and kid that I spend time with, and then I do this crypto stuff for fun on the side. Like that's me. All started with like on MintScan on RHINO, like I could see all of the CW20s that were being created in the contract section. And I was like going and finding them, and then going and finding their white papers and finding the good ones to then know like if I wanted to buy or sell the airdrop. And that's how I found like Raccoon as an example, was like that research and that stuff. I found like the Primo rug super early, like before anyone else kind of posted it in Discord and on Twitter. And it kind of just grew from there. And that's where like the research and, the efforts that I put in recently kind of all came from. Was I had an interest in RHINO, and then that kind of expanded to Osmo and, the wash trading and that sort of stuff. I just do it because I want to have a better ecosystem, and I find it fun to kind of dive in and find this stuff across the various ecosystems. And And then, the more recent discussions around governance are a lot harder because, I like to be very factual about stuff, and you can't be factual when it's politics. So, that's it. That's me. I'm not affiliated with any project. I shill Raccoon a lot because I was like a day one investor. Like Robbo and I literally founded the community because we invested in it early, and we
got to shill
saw
your
the
bags,
devs.
man. Got to shill your bags.
I'm super. The devs are super nice. I'm not sure if you've spoken to them, but they're super legit, like super genuine dudes. And I think they've got a cool project. It's gambling, so like I know a lot of people can't really get involved or promote it and stuff. But at the end of the day, like they're good people, good devs, and that's why I promote it. But in terms of affiliations, I've learned a lot from like Notional. I'm like in their Slack, so I can see how like crypto businesses and stuff operate, which is really nice. Jake was like, "Hey, come in, like learn from our team and what we do." So I've been doing that for a little while now and like learning about the ecosystem. I think it'd be cool to work in crypto, but the leap for me, not being like a hardcore dev, is pretty hard because it would be all like research or documentation or that sort of stuff, which is a little bit harder to kind of get funding for than if I was just an engineer. I think my engineering days might be a little bit beyond me, but you never know. Like I know JavaScript and I could understand and learn like Rust and stuff if I put my mind to it, I think. But it's just if I want to do that versus what I do now, which is more consulting.
Yeah. I mean, I think I first encountered you actually in one of the Telegram groups that I think Notional were in. And I think at the time I was under the impression that you worked for Notional until you're like, no, I don't work for Notional.
No, like I'm in there and I kind of help out. Like if they're pretty bad at communicating. So like I just try and jump in there and be like, hey guys, like make sure you follow up on this. It's mainly just about learning how crypto projects and that sort of stuff work, how crypto businesses work. What I've found is there's a lot of improvements to be made from like what I do, because my job is like business process improvement, communications, project management. So all of that stuff, I can see there's a lot of areas of consulting and process that can improve both the projects that we deliver and the businesses that deliver those projects. So I think that's an area that I could look to move into and just need to find out how that would operate. Across multiple project or development teams or projects to help them improve.
I think even a lot of the mature, bigger, maybe development teams still some over-deliver and some under-deliver, let's say. That would be a diplomatic way of putting it. Like I think there's a big tendency towards developer anarchy in crypto, I think, because there's basically two types of developers in crypto. I think we talked about this on our previous pod, which was just like, it's all the people who are burnouts, senior engineer burnouts like me, who end up managing, and Schultzy, who end up as basically engineering managers, and are like, I just want to code. And so we're like, I think I can only speak for myself here. I'm a bit of a know-it-all and don't like managing and don't like being managed, and so I think we have a tendency towards the like, you get good people, you just all work together, it's fine, we all know what we're doing, it's totally fine. The reality is we don't actually. You do need some scaffolding, but I think we're quite stuck in our ways about that. And then the other group of people are like literally Zuma, Cos and Wasm devs like Callum, who are very, very good, but I mean, I think Callum's unusual probably in the docs a little bit, but has actually at least done a year of professional software development in a workplace doing a 9 to 5, right? Whereas I think there are quite a few devs who literally their first gig is crypto. And again, they're kind of wild talent, but have maybe not experienced like the sublime frustration of having to go to sprint retrospectives, for a project that's 2 years old and the wheels have begun to fall off and everybody wants to kill each other. And, there's projects that are kind of fucked and you actually realize, oh shit, only like some attention to process is going to save this, which is, maybe all the crypto projects are still too young to have to worry about that, but certainly, Sorry.
I mean, to a certain amount of summary, that's kind of what happened to Cosmos originally, right? And that's why there was like a big exodus from there. To break down all the drama into one state. Yeah.
It's a fair summary, though, as far as I can tell. I mean, if somebody wants to come on the show and explain why that's wrong, you know.
Yeah,
I think.
You're right. Go ahead.
Well, I'm saying I think that Jack did that a little bit in the beginning, didn't he? We brought him on, and he was like, "Hold on, here's some drama to drop on you guys for a sec."
The Lake Tahoe thing.
The what?
He said something about the Lake Tahoe retreat, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. Yeah. I think that was part of it. Yeah.
Who knows
Remind us about that, the Frey.
retreat?
What was the Lake Tahoe retreat? Because I don't remember.
Well, no, he just said like, oh, you know,
That's where it went
Tahoe
down.
retreat. You could write. I think the exact thing he said was, if you were doing a book, or if you're doing it was like a fire festival about it, or documentary or whatever, you would start at the Lake Tahoe retreat. Like when presumably that's like the wheels have fallen off. The Lake Tahoe retreat is where we set our scene. The documentary comes in, and you're like, why is everything in a mess? And then record scratch, freeze frame. You cut to Jack, and he goes like, I bet you're wondering how I got here. And then it kind of cuts back several years, and he's like walking in for his first day at Tendermint or whatever. Barbara O'Reilly plays.
Oh yeah, like a flashback movie. Yeah, like the origin story.
It's like, actually, it's the Wolf of Wall Street, isn't it? That's the setup, isn't it? Where it goes from the end, and then it goes to the back, and it just cuts to his first day on Wall Street. That's actually what I've got in my head. But
yeah, how does the Wolf of Wall Street start? He's like on his way to prison, right? Or on his way out of prison?
Doesn't he just crash? Doesn't he like crash the helicopter, and then it goes back to the? It's something like that, isn't it? And then it cuts all the way back, and he's like, my first day on Wall Street.
So anyway, on what this podcast was going to be about, Kujira,
DeFi, yeah.
Even though Code Hands hasn't come, Super Hands, we do want to talk a little bit about Kujira anyway, because I think they've implemented some interesting like UI UX things in the last couple of months, and also the value prop on Kujira is different to every other network. And then they've got the upcoming USK for a stable. So I don't know shit about USK, but I'm hoping someone here can like enlighten me so that you can enlighten our viewers at the same time. But starting on the UX and the UI. So recently, probably after listening to our podcast, I would say, back to trains. So probably after listening to our podcast, which seems to happen, like I've noticed that all of the big changes in Kujira happen right after we say something about something we don't like on this podcast. So I have to believe that Code Hands is a viewer and makes these changes as a direct result of our gripes. Wouldn't you agree?
It might be a stretch. In
any case, obviously like a big conversation, or not an ongoing conversation, is the VP weight for nodes, right? So invariably across networks, the top 10 or even the top 5 have just an OP amount of weight in VP. And that is just like not great for the network in terms of, I don't want to say decentralization, because I think that is just a word that gets thrown around a lot. But in terms of protecting the network from downtime because of networks, because of operators going down, like I don't think there's a huge chance of collusion. It makes no sense. But in terms of the network going down, high VP is an issue, especially if they accidentally happen to be like in the similar regions or in the same data center and there's outages and that type of stuff. So what Kujira has done is they've implemented a new staking interface where it is front and center in your face how much vote power a validator has. They don't make obvious the names of the validators, and they also have a slash count now off to the left. So you can see like how out of whack in the graph the VP is of the validator, right? And it, you know, color codes them in red, orange, green, and it's got like an equal vote sort of column that you can see in the background to see sort of, you know, if everybody was equal, what it would be, and then how out of whack these other ones are. So I think that's like a pretty good way to present the case to the stakers. It might make a bit of sense to have some sort of guidance at the top, like maybe explain the red and the orange and the green, and how you can be benefited by staking to the green ones rather than the red ones. However, you can't actually click on the red ones and stake to them. So I think the red and the orange, you can't even stake to them in that particular interface. So I see Schultz
I'm just
loading it
now.
up now.
It takes me to the UI that I can stake to them.
Oh, does it?
Yeah, the red ones.
So blue.
It does.
Oh.
I just tried it as well. That would have been super impressive. I was about to be like, he did it.
And there's
He did
absolutely
the
no
thing.
reason they can't do that, right? Like the red ones, they could 100% just disable the click through or disable the stake button if they're above X% vote power. They've got the threshold they want.
Oh yeah, I can click through. I
Yep.
thought the other day that I couldn't. It actually looks a little bit different to me today.
You know what? I actually agree. I thought you couldn't either. I wonder if there's some sort of complaints or something about it.
Yeah, maybe.
They're probably right. Like, I don't think they have like a minimum commission or anything through governance that says you can or can't stake. So I think the UI is fantastic. That's the first time I saw the picture of it, but I wasn't sure what it was. This is a great example of what I think a staking interface should look like. And I'd love to see something like this for other chains, right?
Well, I mean,
Just so you could visually represent it.
Back to this, though. I mean, it's sort of back to the thing we were talking about with it's either all the free for all or it's not. Yeah, there was some discussion a while ago, which I think, you know, Noel was leading the charge on a little bit, which was, you know, if you've already got like 3% of the network, 5% of the network, should you even be able to stake that validator? And I think there's a pretty strong argument that fucking no is the answer.
I get in trouble when I lead the charge on things, though. Like, I get passionate about things and then people undelegate from me.
Yeah, well, but I looked at that, and you can. I mean, it's not like impossible to just fucking add an anti-handler that just says we get a TX in that says, "Hey, I want to stake with this validator." At the time of that block, it had more than 5% of the network. And drop the TX.
The error should return a Medium article on, you know, equalizing vote power.
Coefficient.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Delegate. So you've tried to submit, you know, error code.
Please do some research.
SifChain does this, right? So SifChain gives you an error if you try to delegate
That's
to the
true.
ones that have.
Oh yeah, they
the
just
higher
changed
vote
it, probably because of
Right.
watching.
And I think these are
Yeah, maybe watch the podcast.
exactly, and I think these are all great examples of experiments that we do on smaller chains, and then we take the good parts of those and implement them on the hub.
Oh, shots fired at SifChain.
I was gonna say,
Juno's an experiment. I say it all the time. Like experiments
with
of
the big oof. It's like,
yeah, like
Large.
that is an experiment, though, right? In terms of
It's more that you said
removing
you
the
called them
ability
a small chain.
Everything's a small chain, mate. They're all small chains unless you're the hub.
Oh, Juno's.
I thought you were going to say unless you're
Everyone's
Juno's a
Juno's
small
pretty
chain. Juno's the biggest experiment there is. The next one's Hua, which is just the meme experiment. So
Who?
that's my opinion. Hua.
Oh, Wawa.
Chihuahua. Hua, mate. It's Hua.
Wa.
Yeah, but we you know, that's the cool thing, right? Is SifChain's, you know, got that maximum vote power thing, and they've put that in code. If that works out really well, use it in other chains. Probably not the hub because they're free market types. But
I
other
love
chains
that.
could look to implement it, right?
I love that SifChain was the first one to do it. I would never have thought SifChain would be the first one to do that, being SifChain. But I just love that they just did it. It's great.
Well, and like historically, SifChain's foundation nodes were like what, the top 10, maybe. So like it kind of flies in the face of their own foundation nodes, which just makes it even more funny.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like counterintuitive to the history of their node structure, but back on Kujira. So I love this interface. I wish more people would do this type of thing. What were the other